Welcome to the Note to Self podcast. I'm your host, Zoe Ariel, an adventurous entrepreneur who loves to make the most out of life. I'm a certified professional life coach, digital course creator, verified YouTuber, and published author. On this podcast, you can expect actionable tips, reflections, and inspiration to live your best, most fulfilling life. So, let's get started. Hello, angels. I hope you're having a beautiful day. Welcome back to Note to Self. In today's episode of Note to Self, I'm going to be sharing about an experience that's recently happened to me and that has been a part of my healing journey, and that is being in a space of allowance to allow memories of childhood abuse to surface. So right off the bat here, trigger warning, I'm going to be talking about childhood abuse and specifically a type of sexual abuse that I experienced as a child. And my intention through sharing this with you is to ignite awareness and let you know that you're not alone in this healing journey. What I've found in my journey personally is that when I hold space for and allow suppressed memories to come to the surface, what's on the other side of that is profound shifts, awareness, realization, and naturally then the space for a next level of abundance in my life in all forms. So wherever you are, know that it's safe to do this work. It's safe to heal. It's safe to release the past. And I'm going to be sharing more with you about this. So the reason why suppressed memories may surface for us in the healing journey is because little us, and I'll speak into little Zoe in this episode today, little Zoe had a lot of trauma in her childhood when she was under her mother's care. So I experienced various different kinds and levels of abuse when I was under my mother's care as a child. And little me was doing my best to survive at that time. And in order to keep myself safe, because connecting with my mother was the pathway forward, the only way forward. Like, my mother was the person who gave me life. I had to continuously attempt or try to create a connection with her because my survival was based on it. And so there were instances where I experienced abuse, but it was naturally too much for my body or for my nervous system to process at the time. And when that happens, our brains, our amazing minds, they do an incredible job of protecting us. So they suppress these memories. They suppress memories of trauma or abuse or things that were very hurtful, scary, or shocking to us in our childhoods to keep us safe. So during the pandemic, I started to establish more safety in my body, and some memories started to surface around abuse that I experienced in my childhood. And some of the memories that started to surface was my mother participating or creating these sort of acts of cruelty around me. And so I'll give you some examples. So my mother was an alcoholic, or is an alcoholic, and she would frequently have this revolving door of boyfriends. She always had different boyfriends. They were always over at the house, and they were drinking, and they were smoking, and they were partying. And I was in elementary school at this time, going to sleep like quite early, and would frequently be woken up or kept up at night because of my mother's habits. And I would often go out into the living room and ask my mom if she could turn down the music because I was having trouble sleeping, and she would be drunk and she would have people over, and what she would do would be, "I can't hear you," and turn up the music and continue going on, and like even start talking louder after I went back to my room, and like talking about how annoying I was, or that like I should just be able to fall asleep. Like it was just cruel, the way that my mother would speak about me, the way that she would behave around me. And I suppressed a lot of those memories because it was very painful for me to not be seen or heard or taken care of by my mother. And there was even this next extent to which this went, where when my mother would have these different boyfriends over, she would call me out into the living room, even perhaps past my bedtime, like after I'd already gone to sleep, call me out into the living room, and I would be standing out there in my pajamas, very young, like elementary school age. And she would ask her boyfriends if they thought that, like, you know, I'm saying they as in like there'd be a different one, and she's done this many different times, but she would call me out into the living room and ask them, like I'd be like half asleep or trying to get to sleep exhausted, and she would ask them if they thought that I was attractive, if they thought that I would be more beautiful than her, if I was older, would they date me? And like that was incredibly confusing for little Zoe. Half asleep, wandering out into the living room with her drunken mother and these guys that she's like never even seen before, whatever else, being asked those types of things. On my appearance, what I look like, was I dateable? It almost goes to the extent of like crinkling my own brain, because I can't even imagine how a human, how a mother would and could do something like that. And I suppose there's lots of trauma underneath that and different emotions and patterns and whatnot. But anyways, what did that result in for me? So that resulted in like suppressing these memories, and they started to show up over the pandemic. And I looked into them for a little while. It caused me a lot of pain releasing them, like crying, feeling into things. And I felt into them to the extent that I could at that time with where I was at in my journey. And then more recently, in a cycle of healing that I've experienced in the past couple of months, is these experiences started surfacing again. And how they started surfacing was I've actually had healers or different intuitives, like different people who I've worked with over the years. They said, as a young child, you had a lot of sexual energy projected at you, and you shut that off. It did not feel safe for you to exist or be around sexual energy. So you closed part of yourself off. And so I've had that in my awareness, let's say. And then recently with a body worker that I've been working with, someone who helps me to release stored trauma from my body, incredible woman. She's highly intuitive, and I came in and she said, you know, there's something here around sexual energy. As a young girl, you had a lot of sexual energy projected on you, and I don't sense or pick up that anything happened, like anyone took an action on this, but just to have sexual energy projected at you at that young age did not feel safe. So you shut yourself off from being able to identify this energy because it did not feel safe. And in reflecting further on that, again, and doing more work and feeling safe and allowing more of these memories to surface, and thank goodness, thank God that no one touched me. And I just want to say, like, I feel for any of you out there who have ever experienced any kind of sexual abuse, like a sexual projection, like I'm speaking into, or to actually had something happen to you, like I'm sending you so much love, because I mean, I can't even imagine. It's been difficult enough and challenging enough to allow these memories to surface. So I'm holding space for you. I'm sending you love. And no matter what, you are not your past. You are not what happened to you. And we can heal ourselves and move on with completely new, liberated futures. So in this journey of like allowing more of that to surface, right, dots started to be connected with me of like, you know what, I've actually sort of never been able to pick up on when a guy is interested in me. Like when a guy is, let's say, like interested in me sexually or like attracted to me. And what I mean by that, I'll give you an example from a previous relationship that I was in. So like after we started dating each other and we're intimate with each other, he was like, you know, Zoe, like we went on so many dates like before I made a move on you, because I couldn't tell if you were interested in me. Like I really couldn't read you. It was like you weren't picking up on any of my hints or anything like that. And inside I was very attracted to this person. I very much had feelings for them. And I was really in my head about it quite a bit, because I'm like, I don't know if he likes me. Like, I don't know if we're just friends and we just keep going out for dinner. But then the first night that we hung out, like it was actually at my place, and our plan, we were going to make Italian food for dinner, and he came over and we were like talking for like a full hour, and it was kind of funny. It's kind of funny, I'll share. So he had come over and I was talking to him all about my life coaching certification and everything that I was learning. And I like pulled out my manual book. I had it on the coffee table and I'm like sitting there, I'm like showing him all the stuff. I'm like super excited about it. And he just like kept like inching closer and closer and closer to me. And like our legs were touching and things like that. But I didn't pick up on it until he's like, I guess maybe we should get started on dinner now. And I was like, oh yeah, definitely. And I like looked up at him and then he kissed me. And like that was the first move that was made. But like when I say that we went for dinner many times, and like naturally looking back on it now, I see, well, of course we spent so much time and energy with each other. We were flirtatious, but I could never quite pick up. I couldn't quite read the energy of attraction, right? Or let's say sexual energy, that someone was interested in me in that way. And why is that? Why was that? Because I believe, and what I've come to understand as I've healed this and moved forward, is that as a child, sexual energy didn't feel safe. So it's almost like I completely blocked it off out of my awareness, which is like such an interesting concept to think about. But again, our brains, our minds, they're so incredibly powerful at keeping us safe. It wasn't safe for me as a young child to understand or like perceive sexual energy. So I just shut it off completely, almost like how some of you or most of you are probably listening to this podcast are aware of. Each of us are psychic beings, right? We have the ability to open up our clairs, to be clairvoyant, clairsentient, clairaudience, etc. But oftentimes when we are younger, based on our environments, we start to shut off those gifts because it's not safe. And what I've identified in myself is that I shut off the awareness of attraction or sexual energy. And that's how it manifested. And that's what I've like started to bring a lot of awareness to on my journey, especially because like a theme right now in my life is opening up to the divine partnership that I'm creating for my life. So yeah, I wanted to share this with you today. It's definitely more of a vulnerable episode, but that's how I am with you guys. I'm just trusting the journey if I felt called to share something. And this was actually something that I shared with one of my mastermind groups, and it helped someone come to a level of awareness of something that happened for them. And in that, I know that there is so much power in sharing vulnerably. It allows people to connect dots. It allows people to do heavy lifting. So let that be, and let this message be more of a permission slip for you that, again, it doesn't matter what you've been through. And if you feel a call to share, to talk, to express your truth, perhaps it is because someone in this world needs that. And even if it's only one person, it's worth it. And with that, I would love to invite you into Lo and Zoe's latest program, which is called Imperfect and Prosperous. This is all about ushering in the new paradigm of ease and relaxed receptivity in love, life, and finances. This is an 8-week program. It is going to be so much fun. Like, talk about the most high vibe place on the internet. I mean, if you guys know Lo and Zoe, or if you've been in any of our courses, you know that it's always so much fun, so expansive and mind-blowing. This is like the sister program to Quantum Creators. So if you've taken Quantum Creators, it's going to be extremely complimentary. And if you haven't yet, it's going to be incredibly awakening, and you'll most likely be led to the quantum after that. But yeah, we're doing it all. We're creating so much ease and spaciousness and liberation in your life. And I would love to see you inside. Thanks for listening to Note to Self. If you enjoyed this episode, please help me out by rating and reviewing this show on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If my energy is resonating with you and you feel the call to work with me, there are an abundance of ways to do so. I offer one-to-one life coaching programs, mastermind containers, and DIY courses, all of which are available through my website, zoeariel.co. Until next time, take note of all the abundance that surrounds you as you make the most of this game called life.